indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How's it going, Bruce?
Morning. Okay. The only officer absent is Arthur Riley, and let's get started. We have a guest speaker, our newly elected Suffolk County legislator, Rob Trotter. Let's give him a hand. You want to chair or you want to stand? I'll stand.
That's right, get you the camera.
It'd probably be helpful if you told us where the boundaries of your district.
Okay. The district basically goes from the Smith Haven Mall, north of Jericho, to Lockfield Road. With a little bit of Commack cut out, a little bit of St. James cut out, and actually in some parts it goes a little bit west of Lockfield Road, down north. And then it comes up back and forth along on the water side. So it's basically north Smithtown with a third of Huntington. There's two-thirds, the district is two-thirds Smithtown, and then a third of Huntington. So it's basically north of here, north of Jericho. I'm on a couple of committees. I'm on 4 committees. I'm on the Health Committee. I'm on the Budget Committee. I'm on the Human Services Committee, which is where I just came from. It was about the homeless shelter in Hapog there. There's 3 homeless shelters within a mile of each other, and there's a county law that says you can't have more than 12 people within a mile of each other. And there's 12 families. There's 100 families in one shelter itself. So it has to do with state law overbounds county law. So they're arguing the legal ramifications of that, even though the state law says you can have more than 12 families. You don't have to. So the county has decided to put them in this hotel at a cost of $58 a person. So a family of 4 is costing more than $200 a night. Wow. To stay. But they do get services there. You know, I walked through it. You know, it's really a sad situation because I feel bad for the kids. There's hundreds of kids there. And
what schools do they go to?
Well, I want to say there's 196 kids. 16 go to Hapog, which is the school district. The rest want to go. There's a federal law that says if you're homeless, they were driving people to Riverhead. And guess who pays for that? We do. So it's, you know, you can add that onto $200 a night for a family of 4. It's staggering money. And the county is saying that this is the cheapest way to do it. You know, and of course, you know, do the math. 30 nights times $200 a night. That's a nice apartment you can rent for that much money. So, you know, they're battling back and forth. You know, a lot of these people are there because, you know, they're not all put together. They're not like people like you know. They're people who are, you know, can't hold a job down, they're dysfunctional, their families are dysfunctional, and for whatever reason they got out on the street. They're trying to slowly get them into houses. You know, I think the average time they're staying there is about 6 months. So they're trying to move them out. I got to tell you, getting into this, I campaigned that, you know, the 2 other guys I ran against in the primary, we're going to do it part-time. One was a lawyer and one was a plumber's business agent. There's no way you could do this job part-time and do it effectively and know what's going on. Maybe if you've been doing it for 10 years, you know, you could get away with a little bit less time. But I go from 9 in the morning till 9 at night most nights, and on the weekends, and I'm sort of regretting retiring as a cop. At least I knew when I was going home, not most of the time. But anyway, the reason I'm here, I met with Frank Petrone last week and talked about Town Line Road. He's very amenable. He goes, all I want is my garbage trucks and the municipal trucks going down there. Now, he had that fight with the county where he sued the county, and the county now took the road back. And I'm going to meet with him again, not next week, the week after, and bring someone from the Department of Public Works and sit down and get together some kind of settlement where the town will maintain the road, the county will keep it, and we can put any signs we want on it. But as Mr. Petrone said, and I agree with him 100%, you can put a sign up saying no truck over 10,000 pounds, And there's not gonna be a cop there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, they're gonna drive down there. There's gonna be, if there's no 18-wheelers, they're gonna go down there. However, I think it will greatly reduce it. Coming from the police department, one of my old partners is the inspector in charge of highway patrol. He goes, whenever you need cars there, I'll put cars there for you. So I could probably get a better police presence. I'm sure you're reading about these new cameras that they have in school zones, which I personally, these cameras, they're nothing more than a revenue generator. You know, under the guise of, you know, I got a ticket at Commack Road, making it right on red. Everyone's going to. You know, the cars are making lefts. I'm going westbound on Jericho, right by the White Castle. I'm making a right. The cars are making lefts from the other lane, so clearly no one's coming. Okay? So I almost stopped the car. The lights go on, the tires, they just don't stop. $80. You know, it's right. I mean, it is nothing to do. And guess what? You do the school zones, and you do 80 times. I'm just getting into this. I don't see this as a revenue stream. I think it's an unfair. It's just another tax on you. That's all it is. Don't take, you know, there is some safety part of it. Now, you know, you might be slowing down a little bit. You'll step on the brake and probably get rear-ended, you know, because you're stopping. But it's a revenue generator. There's no doubt about it. So if they want to do these, the lights at the schools, at the speeding cameras now, I might have, you know, I don't even know if I have the pole, but I might be able to say, okay, let's put one over on Town Line Road by the elementary school. Then, of course, you'll get a ticket, I'll get a ticket, because it's like 15 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour. Oh, yeah. So that, you know, it's a little bit off, probably not until fall, but that's another revenue getter. It's, you know, the county is essentially broke. I mean, it's so bad that, you know, I can't even believe how bad it is. They can't, there's police cars, they don't have a guy to put, they bought a bunch of police cars. You ready for this one? They're bonding police cars and the average bonding time is 18 years. A police car is driven 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It lasts 2 to 3 years. That's it. So my children and grandchildren could conceivably be paying for a police car you see driving around today. I mean, it's that bad. I mean, think about it. They sold the Dennison building. They sold the building. They got an estimate of $23 million. They sold it for $70 million. They sold it for $70 million because there was a $70 million budget shortfall. That's what they had to fill it up. And this year, they took $39 million out of the sewer fund to pay to balance the budget. And we still don't know if it's balanced because, you know, we're only in the beginning of the year. But, you know, in the beginning of the year, they have a balance of the budget. They say, okay, we need $40 million more, $39 million. All right, we'll take it out of the sewer fund. That sewer fund technically should have never been touched because, you know, it's groundwater protection. You know, he takes the money out one day, and then a week later he's having a press conference saying, the water's our number one priority, we got to get sewers. Wait, didn't you just take $40 million out of the sewer fund? I mean, it gives me a headache thinking about what's going on. It really, it's a challenge, believe it or not.
Isn't Suffolk County renting that building now?
Yes, they leased it back. And they borrowed 70, they're going to pay back 96, so it's costing you $26 million for that building that you own, that you did own. It was the equivalent of Pat Vecchio selling Town Hall for some extra money and not even owning it and then paying it back. It's like remortgaging your house. And, you know, there's only so much more you can do. You know, I don't even want to get into the police contract, which is a whole other story, because, you know, there is some savings. I mean, let me ask you something. How do you feel about it? You guys read the paper. What do you know? The cops are going to make, the detectives are going to make, according to the paper.
Don't go to college.
What?
Don't go to college.
Become a correctional.
No college required. Absolutely. Suffolk County, nothing. Nassau County, 2 years.
Tuesday, I think, is exploded all out of proportions. It looks like all the cops are making $250,000 a year.
No, they say at the end of the contract they will, which is in 4 years.
Not every cop.
The detectives will.
Yeah.
Well, the other day in Newsday was the prison guards.
Well,
They're making $400,000.
well, but that was
Except that they got some,
they got like 50,000 of retro, and
Yeah,
they're short
retroactive.
guys. So they had like no contract for 2 years, and each of them got like between $30,000 and $50,000, and that was built onto their salary.
But just the basic base pay is out of control. I mean, how does the county say we have no money, but then justify paying these salaries?
Well, you know, it's all in news, they just have to read through it.
Yeah.
You know,
It's all gonna wash out in the end, because one by one, okay, you can have every county in every state go bust.
Like
It's
Detroit.
just the direction, the trajectory that we're in, I hate to say it, but that's what it is, and it will come to that to correct it all. Remember I said that, this is gonna happen.
I agree with you, because they're even deferring, they're giving these big raises, and then they're deferring them, which is, let's say, the argument's sake, a detective has a $9,000 raise this year. They're deferring $8,000 of it. Okay, the next year, they're gonna defer another $8,000.
Cash it in when you retire.
Exactly. So I did the whole math, it's, you know, it's potentially in 2018, it's potentially between $150 and $250 million bill they're gonna have to pay out. Which, what are they gonna do? They're gonna bond it. And I agree with you 100%. I mean, my whole thing is, you know, what do? I vote no. But guess what? You're gonna see votes 17 to 1.
So there's a difference between, I work for the airlines, okay? About 6 years ago, all right, all the pilots had their pensions frozen. It's either the company was going to go under, okay, or they froze your pension, they opened a 401k. Okay, so the pension system, or basically defined benefit, was gone. All right, and that's what you're going to end up happening. Besides the defined benefits going away in the country as a whole.
But it's not happening. I mean, the new hires, the tier 6 cops, are paying a portion of their pension, I think 15%, which the cops have never. You know, I benefit from it, but I also, you know, I'm not threatening. I'm having trouble voting yes. There's one. The PBA is done. The detectives is done. The cops are done. The detectives are done. The superior officers is coming up the contract, and there's a variety of reasons. You know, I'm in a different spot now. I'm no longer them. You know, and guess what? This is the dilemma I'm in. If I vote no, or abstain, I'm going to do one of those two, they'll come at me with, you know, run someone against me and give them $200,000. And that's the fact of life. I mean, Steve Malone took $1.3 million from the PBA. You know, in his campaign, actually, a high-ranking Democrat told me it was $2 million. It was in the paper as 1.3. I should really look that up because I can tell. And what they do, it's called soft money. They collect money from their members, and while they're limited in what they can give you, it's called an education fund. So they can send out something on me, educate the public about me, that I, you know, vote, you know, whatever I did, whatever they make up or whatever they insinuate, or say something about the other guy. At a point where you get 15 things in your mailbox, and you go, it doesn't have to be true. You know, it's one thing I'm learning. It's bizarre.
Yeah,
You have to be focused.
you look at Stockton, California, look at Detroit,
Oh,
whatever.
I know.
It's just boom, 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 boom,
They're
boom.
$2 billion in debt right now.
The county.
The county. It's 1.6 in real money, and then what they're doing in pensions, they're borrowing for the pension. It's, you know, it's bizarre.
Very depressing.
It's very. This is what I tell my wife. When I was a cop, I slept like a baby when I went home. I went home. I didn't really think about the cases. When I woke up, I lay in bed at night, like thinking, "What the heck did I? You know, what's going on out there?" I mean, it's like I'm on a different planet.
Well, how do you change it?
Elect people who will stand up. I mean, you know, I'm not bad-mouthing, you know, anybody, but I'm having trouble pushing people along the line.
Nothing changes.
Well, nothing changes unless you do something. Because I'm going to make some bold moves in a very short time. And you know, my argument is, if I lose next time, they vote me out. And what am I going to do? I try. I can look myself in the mirror and say, I tried to do the right thing. I mean, you know, there's some very disheartening things. I mean, I'm a big fan of the police department. I jumped out of bed to go to work for years. And then I read about the new chief of the police department. I'm sure you've seen him in the paper 100 times, the prostitute, all this stuff. I mean, who says a word? Nothing. Nobody. I mean, Nassau County, the commissioner has someone arrested who has a warrant. And you can make a very good argument that if you know someone has a warrant, you have an obligation to send someone there to go arrest him. He did that. Maybe he was a little politically motivated. I don't know. He's out here in Suffolk County. What the heck happens? It's, you know, it's bizarre. And there might come a point where I need people like you to show up and say, hey, listen, we're paying big money for these cops. We expect integrity, honor, you know, a good, you know, an upstanding person. We deserve better than this. And would you come and show up and stand up in front of the county legislator and do that?
We've done it.
Well, then,
Before.
I'm going to take their names and numbers because I may need you. Because, you know, it's disheartening, it's hard, it's, you know, I have trouble sleeping about it. It's really, and the funny thing is the cops I talk to, they all agree with me. You know, the contracts are good. How the heck, I can't believe we got this contract. So you can't blame the cops, it's the system. You know, it's just a broken system.
That developer from Ohega Castle was the one that made the call that.
Yes, I mean, you know, who the heck knows? You start reading into that, and you see, you know, the debt on that place is a huge debt on that. Who else did he borrow money from? You know? Who the
But
heck
I mean, he
knows?
made a call that axed the inspector.
The what?
The commissioner.
The commissioner,
He
yeah.
made
That
the
was,
call, the
yes.
phone call that really put the finger on him.
So it's, you know, it's much different than I thought. I mean, I feel like I'm out there alone a lot, but with the exception of my, who helped me. But I'm, you know, I consider myself an honorable guy, and it might only be one term, but I'm going to, you know, do what I have to do. I'm going to try to do it as politely and nicely and as calmly as possible. But you know, it's, you know, I have a real problem with this contract coming up. I really do. I mean, let me tell you a little bit about it. The contract is really good 10 years from now, because the new cops start at a lower salary, and their top pay is $110,000, which is what it was last year for the cops. So 10 years from now, it'll still be the top pay. It's not going to change, and it's $30,000 less than the cops are making now. So, and they're paying part of their health care, and they're paying part of their pension. So that group will save us down the road. Unfortunately, there's no money to hire them. Okay, so it's like a catch-22. And all these new guys, the guys like my friends who are still in there with 25 to 30 years on, they're not leaving now. Because all the money is, the gravy's now, they took 3 zeros. You know, they took, for 3 years, they took no increases. But this year, they're getting it back, 6%, 7%, you know, they're backloading them. So there's no sense in retiring in the next 3 years. So maybe 4 years from now, there'll be a mass exodus, and but then what do you get? The $200 million bill, which takes up for the money that you're going to save from these guys. So that's what they're thinking. We'll save money from these guys to pay the $200 million bill.
Now, who puts together these plans? Like who?
The county executive. That's one thing you should
But then,
understand.
it's
I
got to
have
go
no
before
say in
the
the
it's got to go
contract.
before the legislator and be voted on and approved by the legislator.
Exactly.
Correct?
Here's the problem. I don't negotiate anything. All I do is vote yes or no. So now they painted me in a corner. I mean, binding arbitration, that's what they hang over your head. It's a state law. If they can't agree, they get binding arbitration. So what do? I looked at the history of binding arbitration. I cut all the binding arbitration awards around the state, and they determined you get 3.5%. That's what you get. Assemblyman Fitzpatrick wants to cap it at 2%. Because how can you have 3.5% when the tax cap is 2%? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
So he is he's fighting, you think I got problems, he's fighting against the Democrats in Albany. You'll never change it because the unions pay money out. You know, they give campaign contributions. Now they're gonna, it's not gonna go through. If there was a 2% cap, go to binding arbitration, you get 2%. And guess what? The cops would take 2%. You know, 2%, 2% is, you know, this is when I interviewed with them. I had to go in front of the unions. They did not support me. I went up to them and said, listen, this is what I think. No givebacks and a cost of living increase. Just let us catch our breath, you know, and that's a fair contract. No, you know, they thought I was the devil. You know what I mean? We need more, we need more. But you know something? That's their job. Their job is to get their members the best they feel they possibly can. The problem is, they're doing a better job than the legislators. And the reason is, who gives politicians money? I don't, you don't, unions do.
Well, that's the difference between a private union, like the airline that I work for, some union guy, and a government entity, which we gave up 28%, which is a big chunk of
You
money.
gave up 20%. 20%.
To have a job, to go to.
That's
Okay.
what everybody did in
Okay.
the job, you gave
you
back.
know? But that's, but we were union. So that
We
we
gave
had,
it back.
right, so that we had a job. And then it took us 4 years to negotiate another one, which actually took us, technically 6 years. But that's the difference, though.
Between a private union and a municipal union.
Nothing is right.
Because basically, if you're a government union, you're always, the guy on the other side of the table is a taxpayer, not a private company. It's completely two different things here.
Yeah, they just think by the ability to pay, they just raise taxes.
Now, let me ask you, I just got my tax bill 2 days ago, and besides my $10,000 going to Commack School District, the second highest is going towards the police department.
And it went up
Now, is that-
3.2%.
All right, so is
This is how-
that predicated on, I guess not, because it hasn't settled yet.
This is a Pat Vecchio quote. They've guaranteed you till 2018 your taxes are going up. Now there's 2% tax cap, right? The county can only raise their taxes 2%. You'll see your general fund be nothing. It'll be flat. They're going to use that whole 2%, which is actually going to come out to like 3.2% in your police district fund. So they're going to raise that higher, but generally it's 2%. So when Malone goes to run in 2 years, he's going to say, your county general tax fund, I've kept it frozen for 5 years. And he's not lying. He took it all and gave it to the cops. It went up 3.2%.
And you put the county into debt for $2 billion.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
How serious is the situation with water? The 70% of homes in Suffolk County
On the sewer.
that are not sewered? I mean,
I don't know, it's funny you said that, because when he came out with that came out, he must have got some report somewhere that said something's going on, the nitrogen levels,
Yeah.
because the aquifers, and the one aquifer, that was concerning to me. I don't know. I mean, I'm on the health committee, I'm sure I'll find out shortly, but there's something up with that. I mean, he came out.
Is it legitimate, or is it just, something to scare people?
It could be a scare tactic. Honestly, I haven't figured that one out yet. I mean, a lot of things happen, and you don't find out why they happened until all of a sudden later on down the road you say, oh, that's why that happened. It's a crazy, anybody new is behind the 8 ball, because I have to educate myself to every aspect of every part of it. I sit with the budget people all day long. And the budget people are the AME workers. The average age is 5,900 AME workers, which is county workers that are secretaries and higher, people. Most of the people, okay, most of the people in the county. They got 0, 0, 1, and 1. That's what they got. And guess what? They hate the cops, because it's a pie. The cops take 90% of it, they get left with the crumbs. So they know they're in a difficult situation talking to me, because they think I'm like, Mr. Cop, the cops should be millionaires, which I'm really not. The cops should have a good salary, live in a nice house, and be able to drive a nice car, live in a nice neighborhood. They shouldn't become millionaires. I mean, in the old days, you took a job like that because it was good benefits, you never got rich, you never got poor, and you had a good pension. Now it's to the point where you're making better than any, the people you're protecting.
And that's binding arbitration, so they're doing it.
Binding arbitration, absolutely.
If you don't get the contract, you go to binding arbitration, and you make some money.
But you know what, though? From a union guy, we have a saying, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. So the person on the other side of the table, okay, is the one who's signing off on that, and it's either he's going to keep the town, the county, the federal government in the red and the black by signing that, and that's the bottom line.
Vecchio does a great job. When you look at his budgets of all, I don't know how many people live in the town of Smithtown. When you look at his budgets, they have the least debt. I think it was like $13 million.
Yeah.
Brookhaven is like more than $500 million in debt. But he gives the guys, cost of living increase, maybe a little bit more, and when it's held back, he gives, when he doesn't have it, he gives them 0. And he's like, listen, this is what I can afford. I'm not putting the people in debt. But other people don't do that. I mean, it's, they want to. This will sum it all up. Steve Malone spent $5.9 million to get elected to a job that pays $186,000 a year. What does that tell you?
Well, how much did Obama spend?
30 million.
$1 billion
Yeah,
to get to a job?
Yeah.
$400,000?
Historic amount of money.
So, I mean, it's all about power and, you know, unions paying you back. It's, you know, this is how screwed up it is. I went to when they took that $39 million out of the sewer district fund, I started calling the trades, the plumbers, the electrical workers, and the carpenters, to say, guys, you should be against this, because if I can get sewers in downtown Kings Park, you know, just the strip where the town is, they'll knock buildings down, they'll put up buildings, all your guys will work. You guys should come out and say, this is wrong. Well, you know, and you know, generally the money's going to the employees, which are, you know, other union, as long as, you know, they stuck together. You know, and I'm like, they're doing their members a disservice by not coming to those meetings and saying, hey, listen, you should be raiding the sewer fund, because sewers create jobs for us. And then if they create jobs for us, and they build a new restaurant, and people come out from the city and start spending money, the money gets generated. Then we start getting more sales tax revenue. But they're short-sighted. I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the whole world, but I'm looking at this going, what the heck? I mean, it's like everyone's got their...
But that's the problem with Pat Vecchio's budget too. If you look at Smithtown, that is the worst town around here. It's nothing. It's a parking lot. You know, it's a drive-through. If you look at Huntington on one side of us and Port Jefferson on the other side of us, those are thriving, vital towns that generate a lot more revenue.
Yes.
And that's the short-sightedness of saying, you know, we're not going to spend, we're not going to spend, we're not going to spend.
Well,
You know,
those are sort of different areas because they're running perpendicular and the streets are wider and it's not a big thoroughfare.
That's state road.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
I
I
understand, but
what
you
you're
know, it doesn't have to be the way it is now in
saying.
Smithtown.
My office there is in Smithtown, and you know, Kings Park, out of the places that I have, is the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
I agree.
I mean, and you know what the weird thing is? It could be the best. Because it's got the
Got
parkland there, it's got the train station, it could be a destination,
Yeah.
which is another thing I'm trying to work on. But it's just, it's a little bit overwhelming.
What do you think of another way to raise revenue? Seems to me the fundamental mistake on Long Island is loading everything on the property owner. You don't have an income tax.
Well,
Couldn't they have an income tax and lower the property tax?
well, believe it or not, the property tax in the county budget is $2.7 billion. Your property tax for the county is nothing. I bet you it's $300 on your tax bill.
Well, that's just the general fund, but then you put the
The
police and the town.
It's very little. It's less than 10% total.
There's different
It's
county line items.
less than 10% total. It's very little. Like, to give you an idea, if they doubled your taxes, if you doubled your county general fund taxes, it would mean nothing. It would be $50 million in a $2.7 billion budget. That's why they never raise them. Because they would have to quadruple them for it to make a difference. Because if you raise the sales tax, which they were sort of talking about, but no one will raise the sales tax to match the city. Nassau and Suffolk, there was a thing they were going to do. Nassau and Suffolk go to 8.75%. It's 8.65%. That would raise $40 million. And they're saying $40 million. Well, we had to sell a building to get $70 million. It's not even, you know, now the contracts are coming up. Like the police contract between now and 2018 is going to cost $268 million. The detectives is $56 million. The SOA is another $70 million. So it's $400 million. $42 million is nothing.
So where does the 2.7 billion come from?
From different revenue. Sales tax is a big, it's the big part of it. If sales tax increases, it will help. If it, you know, but guess what? I read this whole article in the Wall Street Journal about the baby boomers. They're all retiring. And what do you do when you retire? You spend less money. You know, you nest more. You don't go out as much because you're not getting money coming in. Your mindset is. And then the new jobs aren't paying as much. There's no Grumman anymore. And that's why the railroad ridership is up going to the city, because there's no big employer out on Long Island anymore. People are all running into the city. So there's less money. The jobs we are creating are lower paying jobs, which gives you less spending money for less sales tax. It's like, it's going to be okay this year because they're pumping billions of dollars into the South Shore. Literally billions for the Sandy relief. And if you read, they're building a 15-foot dune from here to Montauk. I mean, crazy amounts of money they're spending over
Who's,
That's
county, the
feds.
federal
The
government?
feds, the
That's
feds are
feds.
bringing all this money
Yeah.
in, billions of dollars.
So what about income tax?
And a county income tax, they don't, the politicians do not want to give any more taxes. Taxes are a
No,
dirty
but
word.
we're going broke, so if you don't
Absolutely.
get the money, you can't pay the.
Well, look, I use Nassau, to my friends who are cops, I use Nassau for an example. Nassau, they have a great contract, except one thing, it's frozen for 3 years. Guys who got hired making $23,000 a year 3 years ago are still making $23,000 a year. A bunch of city cops came out, took the Nassau County job, they were making $32,000 a year. In the city, they're making $75,000. Frozen for 3 years, they left to go back. They can't
That
survive.
you don't see often.
And that's because of the state,
The state, NIFA came in and said, you're broke. I mean, we're a little different because that had a lot to do with the assessments over there, because in Smith, in Suffolk County, the towns do the assessments. The county did the assessments and screwed up over there. So they're really out of whack. So they have other problems, but they just did, Napoli, a Democrat, did a report and had Suffolk County as the 3rd worst county.
in the country.
No, in the state. And Nassau was behind us. We're that bad. I don't know what's going to happen because you don't know. All the legislature does, I'm learning, is the county executive gives you stuff and you have to either vote on it or not vote on it. You really don't have much say into it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the contracts. Like the contract, the police contract, there are some good things in it. But, and now they painted me in a corner. Well, if I say go to binding arbitration, they can get more money. So what do? I know the deferring, the bottom line is, if you're giving someone a raise and you can't give it to them until they retire, there's something wrong with that. Okay? There's something basically wrong with that. They can't pay you. So, you're getting a raise, but that's the
So that means when they put it before you to vote on it, yes or no, that
Yes or no.
you're voting no, and I don't know how many legislators
18.
there are.
It'll be, if I vote no, it'll be 17 to 1.
So you're in the minority all by yourself, voting
By
no?
myself.
Really?
I mean, no, from what I'm hearing, and put it this way, the PBA went through 18-0. The detectives went through 18-0. I'm lamenting over this, and one of the guys that I work with go, you're losing sleep over this, you're pulling your hair out over this, and it's going to come through. It's going to be a number. You're going to vote yes or no, and it's going to be gone. No one even knows about it. No one asks a question, no one says a word.
Don't abstain.
Huh?
Don't abstain.
No. Well, abstaining is not a bad reason. There's a reason that I thought I might have to abstain because I just left the department. I know a lot of people. So if I vote no or yes, well, you did it for a reason. There's another reason why, which you might find out shortly, why I would abstain. It's another story. Abstaining is a way of, it's considered no in the law.
So you're saying that so your legislators, you go into the room, okay, they bring up a bill or a piece of
But it's
legislation.
not, it's out in the public.
Okay, but I'm saying, okay, so, but at what point do you all vote on it together though,
Yes.
right, at a meeting?
Yes.
And there's no discussion about it at all? It's,
From what
this
I've
is bill number so-and-so, yes or no?
From what I've told, in the last two, there was no discussion.
See, that whole process is absolutely ridiculous.
Do you know why? Because nobody knows.
Nobody goes to the meeting?
No one knows. No one stands up at the public. Like if you guys went to a public safety meeting and said, this is insanity, I can't afford this anymore, well, you would force them to say something. But do you know the nuances of the contracts? No, you don't. You don't know.
But the reporter from Newsday is there, and
And
she's
they-
writing the story the next day, but I guess there's not enough public outcry.
And what happens? Nothing. It's in the paper, it goes away, throw the
People
ball.
become too complacent.
And we keep electing the same people over and over again. What do you expect them to do? They're gonna do the same thing
I
over and
gotta
over
tell
again.
you, I get really frustrated. It's like, what the heck? And it's, and I don't know. It's,
Last year in the state legislature, there were more legislators taken out in handcuffs than voted out.
really,
Yeah.
New York State.
New York State legislature, more were
right.
taken out in handcuffs than voted out.
that's a great statistic.
Shocker.
Yeah.
But, I gotta tell you, it's a, the problem is the unions are so powerful. they'll vote shallow. They'll put, give someone, well, in my case, I think I'm okay because I did not get my union back. I mean, this is all online. I spent $24,000 to get elected. I ran against 2 other people in the primary. One guy spent over 100 and one guy spent 35. Okay, so I beat them by saying this. So I'm hoping, like Mike Fitzpatrick, the unions, he's a very nice guy. The unions hate him, but he's a nice guy. They don't even put up money against him because he's a non-issue. He's one person. He runs, he wins, he stands up and says, look, this is wrong, there's nothing I can do with it. Now, I'll probably basically be doing the same thing. They'll either put $200,000 against me or just totally ignore me. Not just him, he comes in and votes, that's it, let's goodbye. It's, you have to get people, you have to, how many live in legislative Kennedy's district? Call them up. Tell them, you say, listen, I've been looking at these, call them up and say, I've been looking at these contracts, this is crazy. What's with the police chief? We're paying this guy $280,000 a year, and this is what he does. He's going to people's house, violating the rules and procedures of the police department. I mean, look at that guy. I'm going to start talking more openly about this. He's the guy the police look up to. So if there's a young cop, and he's in whether he does something right or wrong, look what the chief did. When he was a sergeant, he did it. They may go do it. It's a bad example. You're paying top dollar for your police. Top dollar for your police department. You should have professionals. You should have a Ray Kelly, a Bratton type guy, someone who you can, a solid guy. And you don't have that. And you should demand it.
I have a question. With all the, money going towards salaries, should the police department have any technology? Are they up to date on everything that they need? The computers in the cars?
Yes. Well, no. I can tell you stories. I can tell you stories all day long. They made a bunch of sergeants. There's no cars in the drive. They're doubling up. 2 sergeants in a car. So why are we paying 2 people to drive around in the car? I mean, there's a public safety meeting Thursday at 10 a.m.
Yes.
Go there.
Where?
It's in Hot
Right here in Hot Pot.
Go there and ask questions. Say, listen, what's with this contract? What's with the chief of, do you guys see, are you familiar with what I'm talking about with the chief of police?
Yeah.
I mean, he was at the cover of Newsday for having sex with a prostitute in his car while he was working. Granted, it was 20 years ago.
He's not in DC now, is he?
He's the chief of department.
Chief of Department,
Which
he's
is-
right up.
That's the one with the duffel bag.
Yeah,
He left it
yeah.
down
Yes.
the park and the
Who
car.
else, if that would have happened to me and I went to someone's house and took it out of the crime scene, I'd be brought up on charges, I'd be misconduct.
And that wasn't 20 years ago.
That wasn't 20 years ago.
Right.
And let me tell you, what you read in the paper is like that, tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
But go there. Please.
Are they videotaped and played on the public access channels?
No.
So county government stuff isn't on
No,
public access?
they're audio tapes. You can listen to them live on your computer. They're supposed to be videotaped and put on. There's like give you an idea. It costs like $100,000 to do it.
It's not a hearing.
They don't have any money to do it.
It's not a hearing. It's just a meeting.
The meetings.
And there's hearing. There's different committee meetings and stuff.
Hearing.
Not videotape.
No, not like the town board meetings.
It's at 10 o'clock.
Do they have auditors that come in and audit the books yearly?
They have. I didn't know this. They have an Office of Budget Review, which is the county legislator has these auditors who take the county executive's budget and audit it and tell you about it. And tell you, it's this thick. So I live with those guys. I sit down with them all day long. And I say, well, what's going on here? We're going broke. Can we afford this? No, we can't afford it. When I go to meetings, I tell them we can't afford it. Well, what do we do? I just tell them, my job is to tell you what it is. They can't, they can transfer, fire, or whatever. But they all, across the board, saying we have no money. And the largest, I'm not telling you anything you can't figure out yourself, the largest expenditures is the police department. It's getting...
What percentage of the total county budget is the police department?
It's about $900 million, so it's about a third, a little less than, about a third, because it's $600 million.
And
$600 million,
And that's
$607 million.
separate from the sheriff or corrections
Totally
department?
separate, yes.
And what is-
600 and something million.
And do you know what that portion of the budget
No.
is? But it's
It's a lot less.
comparable?
No, it's a lot less, a
Is
lot
it?
less. Yeah. Social service is big. Social service is probably about 500 million, 250 million comes from the federal government, the state, in subsidies. Because, you know, for homeless shelters and things, a lot of that comes from the state. The police department, 99% of it comes from, I'll tell you what exactly comes from. $500,000 comes from your tax bill.
500 million?
I'm sorry, $500 million comes from your tax bill, and $100 million comes from your sales tax. It used to be that tax bill covered it, but now it's so big, they're taking sales tax money and paying it off.
And where's the other 300 coming from?
No, it's only 600 million.
600
The,
million?
yes, the town,
Now, we don't get anything from the state or the federal
very
government
little,
for,
insignificant. I mean, there's some grants for overtime and projects like that, but insignificant.
If you were to unravel the Taylor law, would that put everything in a different position?
If you were to do away with binding arbitration, or limit binding arbitration, no one's gonna care if you get a cost of living increase. And that was my argument. Listen, you guys make good money. I made good money. I mean, I was a different kind of guy. I went 25 years, I never took a sick day. I never knew how much I made. I didn't, I was happy doing what I was doing. I'm fortunate, my wife's a teacher. So I drive a 1989 GMC pickup truck. I'm not like an extravagant guy. I never knew what I made. They were talking about contracts, I would never get involved in it. Whatever, if we had no contract for 3 years, I could care less. Whatever. You know what I mean? It wasn't what I wasn't like, but other guys aren't like that. And the union presidents aren't like that. But guess what? I didn't think about it because they did such a good job. You gotta hand it to them. It's like a double-edged sword. They're fighting for their members. They're doing what they can. Their job is to get them every dollar they can. But as I say to them now, it's like, you're fishing in the pond, but you caught all the fish, nothing left. You gotta let it grow back a little. I don't know, it's an interesting job.
But Rob, if you want to cap binding arbitration, you have to lobby your state representatives, because it starts up in Albany.
But you're not gonna, it's not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen.
Because the Democrats run the Assembly, there's a Democratic governor, and essentially the Democrats are in charge of the Senate too. And it's not saying it's all Democrats, there's Republicans that won't vote for it. Because of this, they get campaign campaign. You and I don't give politicians money. We don't. It's corporations. It's either corporations or unions. Unions are my biggest guy. I ran against the plumbers union guy. He must have got $50,000 and $1,000 donations from plumbing contractors. I mean, they're not giving me money. And that's what you got to look for. I mean, you got to look for, guys who aren't, who aren't in it for the money and are trying to do the right thing. But they get you boxed in. I mean, they get you like, look, it's going to go to binding arbitration. You got to vote yes. And if you vote yes, we won't go after you.
How much flexibility do you really have? I heard a statement Governor Christie given his budget proposals, and almost all the money is spent between pensions and debt service and something else. It's all committed.
Everything.
He's only got about 3%
Absolutely.
to play with.
100%.
It's really, so
You're not arguing over a lot.
we're really just along for, the only option you have is to leave, which I don't think I want to do yet, but that's, because this isn't going to change.
Can I tell you something?
I mean, the fact of the reality is, this is a big iceberg, and you're only looking at the little tip.
What you can change, I'm telling you, if you guys come to meetings and start screaming, because it's typical, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you start screaming, what the heck is going on? It's ridiculous. All of a sudden, the legislature, oh, look, the constituents now. It works. I'm telling you, it works. I mean, Steve Levy was a good example. He went crazy there at the end, I think. But he didn't care about the unions. Cops, you're not going to vote for me? I don't care. The people know that I want to do the right thing. I'm trying to keep the taxes down. But he got okay. He wanted to be the governor. Then he started going nuts. I don't know. But I try to tell these other guys, look, Steve Levy went too far. If we can just, don't be afraid of the unions. Go out there, guys who win by 70% are afraid.
Hey, you have to understand, your wife's a teacher, she knows what a school board looks like. When I moved here, when it was a school board meeting, the auditorium was full. Now, if you count 10 people, that's a lot.
That's what I
Because they don't know what's going on, because the school board doesn't make an announcement. Now, if we knew what was transpiring at these meetings, maybe people will get involved. I don't know. I don't even know that there is a meeting.
That's what they count on. That's exactly what they count on. Is not counting.
Well, they've
Don't
accomplished
know.
what they're trying to do.
Yes. And like you said, I don't know where it ends. I don't, Detroit, I don't know.
I think so. You know what?
I mean, people
But
just
that's
say,
where it ends, because you can keep promising pensions and this and that, and higher wages and all that, until it comes to the point where it goes bust. Then you're forced to make the changes.
it's,
Well, unless you're the federal government, then just print more money, which is what they do.
Well, you know,
Which is what they do.
you know, that will come to an end here real shortly, too.
you know what I say? I've been saying that for years. I don't get it. I always say, when someone says to me, oh, the taxes are too high, I stop them, I go, did you vote? And I say, no, I don't even talk to them. Did you vote for the school? Obviously, you know, your school taxes are 66% of your budget.
Yeah.
They go, did you vote for the budget? Yes, I did. What'd you vote? Yes. Okay, well, you raised your own taxes. Fine. My wife's a teacher. I vote no every single time. You know why? Because I can say, I voted no. I'm not responsible for the taxes going up. My wife yells at me, we cancel each other out. But I honestly, I'm not afraid to say it. I vote no.
What's the chance of getting the cap on increase in the police department?
Binding arbitration, a 2%?
There's a cap on the school budget.
There's a cap on the county. There's a cap on the county. But the county gets away with it by freezing the stuff that that everything else besides the police department, and they give it all to the police department. They have to, because they gave them these big raises. But I don't blame the cops. It's the system. It's not going, and it's the system that does it. And if you want to break the system, you got to go to your county legislature and say, this is insanity. See, I'm going to use this analogy. I'm going to go back to the police chief. If he were to apply for a job as a security guard at the Smith Haven Mall, they would look at him with his resume. Oh, look, he's the chief of police of Suffolk County. And he only has a high school education. Let me Google him when they go to a computer. What the heck is this? They're never hire him. Yet, you're going to be paying him $280,000. He wouldn't get a job in the Smith Haven Mall as a security guard, but he's going to be paid $280,000.
If we could get the information about the meetings on our website, I think that would at least
Okay.
inform the
It's
membership.
the public safety meeting is Thursday at 10 o'clock. That's the one. Actually, the Ways and Means. Actually, it's in Ways and Means tomorrow. You know what time Ways and Means is tomorrow? There's a Ways and Means. That's where the budget, that's where the contracts come out of. Is the Ways and Means. It's actually not in the public safety. You can go to both of them. Tomorrow at, I want to say 10 o'clock. Mike, he'll have it in a minute.
All right, so county stuff was good, but let's go back to what we
Okay.
started.
Okay.
Town Line Road,
All right, Town Line Road.
what are you gonna be able to do with the trunk? Like, can you give us some?
He told me, all he cares about is his garbage trucks going down there and the town trucks.
Well, the garbage trucks is like a shaky issue, because garbage trucks are two types. You have garbage trucks that pick up the trash from in front of your house, the backpacks.
Those are dumpsters.
And then you have 18-wheel ash trucks, which technically you call a garbage truck, and you have 18-wheel dump trucks that come with garbage from the city and.
Do they take garbage to the city?
Yeah, Covanta.
So you can't just go around the term garbage truck loosely, because you have to put a definitive
All right, well,
restriction on it. You have to say it's the backpackers only, and it should only be the ones that have roots in the area. It shouldn't be the guys that are coming from, the town of Huntington proper,
Well, I think
driving down.
I think he said, we all agree that you want to keep the 18-wheelers off of there.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it's also to be tied with the county. I'm pulling someone from DPW who's going to come there, and Patron's going to go there. We're going to sit down and decide on something. Vecchio's on board. He's got his signs up already.
Yeah, and they passed the resolution.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, on that contract that they have, okay, the ash trucks, there is no specific route designated in that contract.
So they can go wherever they want. unless
So, yes.
They have
so
to use
he-
whatever's a legal route.
I don't think that he understands his own law over there, but he has a couple more years left, and 3 years left up there, and he's basically gone, so I think the contract's about the equivalent. So I think he's just going to let the ash trucks go for that period of time. And then when it's renegotiated, even though the specific route is not in there, okay, which he claims it is, but it's not.
Oh, he said it's in there?
No, but it's not there. So I had Gene Cook's people look it up.
Okay.
There's no specific route for them in there.
So we can make sure they go out Kings Buck Road, they mean that road.
Well, they're not familiar with our area. So
Well, they
they'll
can give them
be-
that.
Now, in fairness to the truckers who have used this route for years, okay, I think it would be, I think there should be some type of notification given to the businesses which are on Town Line Road, as well as Old Northport Road, okay, and tell them effective so-and-so, no, 18 wheels will no longer be allowed on Town Line Road. And then this way, the guys make the deliveries of asphalt, reclaimed asphalt, or rocks, or whatever it is, that are effective to say, May 1st, you're gonna get ticketed, blah, blah, blah. Because I think the cops be working too hard to give constant warnings all the time.
Yeah, I believe they also, but keep in mind, they're still gonna go there.
Oh, I know.
They're still, the trucks are, no matter what,
Well, at
running
least
around,
at that
they're gonna have
point, they're illegal.
CVs, or the cops there today, they're gonna be cell phones. They're still, I mean, it'll limit them, but it's not gonna be a cure-all.
But I bet you the speed camera will limit them.
That would,
They don't like doing 20 miles an hour.
That will wake
That'll
them up.
slow them down more than coming up Indian Head Road.
Slow down too, going up there. 20 miles an hour is slow when you're doing,
You know what, it's a start.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I can assure you that my friend there in the highway department, he told me anytime he wants, you want someone over there, he'll put people over there. So, I know I have that. And so, in summary, I'm gonna sit down with Patron again with a guy from DPW, we're gonna get something worked out.
Is that Gil Anderson by chance?
Gil might, he'll probably send his traffic guy there.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
I don't know Gil, I know Bill Hillman.
He's the
He's
engineer.
the chief engineer.
I think he's a traffic guy, yeah, I'm not sure. But not next week, the week after, I'm sitting down with him again, and then we're gonna get, because they want, Huntington doesn't mind maintaining the road, they just want to be reimbursed by the county, especially now that it's been repaved. So he said, I just want to get reimbursed. I'll plow it, I'll fix the potholes, but I want to get reimbursed.
By the way, it's only been paid for passenger cars, it's not been paid for trucks.
I know, yeah.
So a couple of years of
That's
18
gonna be
wheelers,
shot up.
it's gonna be the same way it was. The county would be crazy to maintain that.
Yeah.
He was here at the last month's meeting, he seemed to be aware of the fact that it was paved. It's paved from
That's what
Jericho
happens.
Turnpike all the way up to Pulaski Road.
I hope to be him one day. But so that, is there any other concerns? I know the Marion Carl School, I read up on that.
Marion Farm.
Yeah, farm.
Is that within your jurisdiction?
No, thank God. It's Kennedy's. Enough problems. That's Kennedy's, but I read the whole thing, the history of that. He tried to get it purchased. It doesn't fit the criteria because it's not a working farm.
Not yet.
Not yet. If you can make money off this, I
not
really
working.
think if you can make money off of it.
It's not Stern? I thought it was Stern that was responsible.
No, I think that's Kennedy.
Yeah, Steve is actually with the Commack Hills area.
Yeah, I think it's Kennedy. Because Kennedy did the bill. I have to tell you it's Kennedy, yeah. He did the bill back in 2001.
Oh, so Kennedy goes into Huntington?
Well, I think
You know something? Maybe it's not.
No, I think it's Stern.
it is Stern.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah.
it's Stern.
County did the bill, but it's Stern.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been Kennedy's, now it's Stern, because it's just redistricted.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not you're not anywhere,
I'm not north of Jericho.
you're not north of Jericho, you're not south of Jericho.
That's right, I'm sorry, that's not Jericho. It's been a long day. But,
You said that the homeless shelter, that it's $250 a night, and they're getting service.
it's $58 a person.
Adult or
So it's
child?
4 people in a room, it's over $200 a night.
And do they have cooking
So
facilities?
they get it.
No cooking facilities.
They get food vouchers or something, right?
Food vouchers, they're gonna start serving food there, 3 meals a day.
So they also-
For more of an expense, but they get an EDV card, it costs a fortune.
It's the old
They-
Howard Johnson's.
Yes, and there's one in Commack too.
Who's gonna be in charge of the food for that?
It's going out to bid. The company that runs, it's called CHI, they run the homeless shelter there. You know, they make the people clean their rooms, they inspect the rooms every day to make sure they're clean. It's fairly well run. I mean, for $200 a night, you can stay in a Hilton, but, you know, they have busing, they go to school, they come in and they try to teach them how to get jobs. They're trying, you know, it's like, you know, there's a nurse on duty there, because there's so many kids. It's fairly well run, it's sad, you know, I was walking around there, there's people saying, oh, you know, they love it, they think they live in paradise. I was, you know, living on the street, I was living, you know, there's a lot of sad stories in there, no doubt about it, but, you know, it definitely cost a fortune.
If that's the new rate, what was the old rate that they were paying?
Oh, they're paying more apparently, that's what that whole argument was tonight, was that they have to go into other hotels and it'll even cost more.
Where is it?
I'm not allowed to tell.
It's on Motor Parkway.
I'm not allowed to tell.
Motor Parkway at the old
Until
Howard
they come
Johnson.
remind me, tell you, I'm not allowed to
Right,
tell.
the old Howard Johnson.
The old Howard Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to tell.
Right.
Now, is that all paid for 100% by the county, or is that state
There's
and federal
some
money too?
state subsidies, and if it gets this classification, which is a phase 2 or phase 2 homeless shelter, they get even more money, so that's what they're trying to get. I mean, the hope is, I mean,
What good is it about you? Where are they gonna go to eat?
they have to walk to the 7-Eleven, which is a whole issue, because now you have people and families walking across the street to eat.
That's what they eat, 7-Eleven all the time?
And there's nutritional issues.
Oh, God, yes.
Well, you know,
They do have Chipotle down there. Pretty good.
Pretty far walk though.
Domino's Pizza.
You're hungry, you walk for 7-Eleven.
Nothing.
There's nothing really in it, it's not good to walk around.
No, there's no cooking facilities.
There's nothing in a microwave. That's it.
Yeah, but isn't that
Isn't it what?
isn't that a sad situation? Because the kids, they'll grow up and do the same thing someplace else. There's no,
At 150% right.
yeah, so why
That-
is there just
I've said that my
needed?
25 years as a cop. I knew I was time to retire when I arrested a guy or I arrested his father. His son, he was a little baby, then I arrested him as a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, what, nobody,
Absolutely 100% repeating itself over and over.
what do the adults do,
It should be.
if they don't work? Well, I mean,